They don't want you smart. They want you predictable. A smart person questions the script. A predictable one follows it. Every system you were born into runs on that equation. School taught you to memorize, not to think. Grades replace curiosity with obedience. You learned early, it's safer to repeat answers than to ask dangerous questions. By the time you hit adulthood, the pattern was complete. You weren't chasing truth. You were chasing approval from bosses, from peers, from pixels. That's the first stage of control. They don't have to force you to obey. They just make obedience feel comfortable. You scroll, you consume, you react, all on cue. And the system smiles because your predictability keeps the machine alive. Smart people threaten order. Predictable ones sustain it. The truth is, the modern world doesn't reward intelligence. It rewards consistency. Not the kind that builds mastery, the kind that keeps you looping. Every notification, every headline, every recommended for you isn't random. It's data training you to think like an algorithm. They studied your impulses, then built an environment that speaks their language. Scroll, click, dopamine, repeat. You're not being brainwashed, you're being patterned. And once a mind becomes predictable, it's no longer dangerous. They made you believe thinking was stressful, that rest means escape, that silence means boredom, that routine equals safety. So you chase distraction and call it relaxation. You chase noise and call it life. The most obedient generation in history believes it's free because it can choose between brands. Predictability is the new slavery. And it's disguised as convenience. They sell you apps that simplify your day. But what they're really simplifying is your behavior. Because once you're simple, you're easy to sell to, easy to predict, easy to guide without even noticing. Every smart product is studying you. Every scroll is a confession. Every like is a psychological fingerprint. You're feeding the system the code it needs to recreate you, and you're doing it voluntarily. When you wake up and grab your phone, it's not a habit, it's a ritual. The ritual of obedience. They've turned curiosity into anxiety. So you don't explore, you refresh. You don't ask, what's true? You ask, what's trending? And every time you do, the cage gets smaller. Because a predictable mind is easy to monetize, and an unpredictable one can't be controlled. That's why the education system kills curiosity. That's why the media weaponizes outrage. That's why your feed never sleeps. Not because they hate you, but because they need you to behave like code. Predictable, trackable, replaceable. The irony? The system doesn't even need to hide anymore. It knows you'll scroll past it, right on schedule. But every cage creates its opposite. For every predictable soul, there's one who glitches. The ones who stop scrolling mid-swipe. The ones who ask, wait, why am I doing this? That single thought is rebellion. Not loud, not dramatic. Silent, internal, atomic. The predictable man consumes. The smart one observes. One is inside the current. The other steps out of it. They call that burnout. They call it anxiety. But what you're really feeling is the friction between truth and programming. It's the human spirit waking up inside a machine built to keep it asleep. You start noticing patterns, the repetition, the same ideas wearing different faces, the same opinions echoing from every mouth. You realize conformity doesn't come from pressure. It comes from fear. Fear of being judged, fear of being wrong, fear of being alone in your thoughts. So you trade your authenticity for safety, and safety for predictability. But rebellion doesn't require fire. It requires awareness. Every time you pause before reacting, you break the pattern. Every time you think for yourself, the code weakens. You become unpredictable, unprofitable, untouchable, because the system can track everything but one thing: a mind that chooses its own rhythm. The goal isn't to escape the system, it's to stop letting it write your script. You can't delete the algorithm, but you can refuse to dance to its timing. Slow down, observe, question. The real act of intelligence isn't knowing, it's noticing. Notice when your opinion sounds rehearsed. Notice when your habits feel automated. Notice how often your beliefs were downloaded, not chosen. Every time you notice, you reclaim a piece of yourself. Because the truth is, intelligence was never about IQ. It was about sovereignty. The courage to think slowly in a world that moves too fast. The patience to stay silent while everyone performs. The humility to unlearn what made you predictable. They don't want you smart, because smart is dangerous. Smart means patterns break. Smart means systems change. And that's the irony. You don't need to fight them. You just need to remember you were never built to be predictable. Predictability is death wearing a smile. Awareness is rebellion disguised as calm. So breathe, think, pause before the next scroll, before the next argument, before the next automatic thought. Because every pause is proof that the program doesn't own you. They don't want you smart, but it's too late. You're starting to see the code, and once you see it, you can't unsee it.